But anyway, so he can't come just any time. It says specifically when he's going to come. And you better believe when the Malak of Yahuwah, the messengers of Yahuwah, go and sound these shofars, they're not going to be something that you're not going to hear. We're going to hear these things. It's not some mysterious, angel in another dimension blowing an invisible shofar that only certain people hear, and then they're like, oh, I hear the shofar. And I'm going to go up into the clouds randomly, and everybody's just going to get snatched out of here. It's not the way it works. When they sound these shofars, my friends, the earth is going to mourn because they're going to see them coming. When in the ancient world, the shofar would sound to let the people know that royalty was coming, that the king was on his way. You better get ready. You better get down and give your honor to the king, my friends, and humble yourselves before the king before he comes. And this is what's happening. Also, the sound of the shofar would be sounded in an ancient Hebrew wedding ceremony. What would first take place is there would be the contract that would be given between the man and the woman over a glass of wine. He would take a drink of a glass of wine. He would hand it to her. If she drank after him, she accepted. He would say, then, I go and prepare a place for you. He would also say that no man knows the day in which I will return except for my Father. And this is why. He would go to his father's house. He would leave the bride, and he would go to his father's house, and he would build an extra room onto the house. And when the father had watched the house, watched the building, and he finally said, it meets my standards. It's okay, son. Now go get your bride. Then, and only then, could the groom go get his bride. You understand? Those of the elect of Yahuwah, are you getting this? Are you seeing the beautiful picture here? And when he would come, after the father gave him permission and said, it's good, son, you've done a good job, you build this house. Remember, Yahushua said, in my father's house are many mansions. He goes and prepares a place for us. Okay, this is all speaking, he's using bride and groom terminology. And we see that his parables are always using the term of the bride and the groom. The bride, you see all these things. Now, the interesting thing to note is when the groom would come for his bride, it would usually be around the time of midnight or in an unexpected time, a time where he could take her unaware, and he would come with witnesses, and they would sound the shofars outside of her house, and she would come out, and if it was at midnight, she would have to have her oil ready and her everything trimmed and ready to go, just in case he appeared at any time, because he said no man knows the day or the hour that I'm going to return. Okay? And then she'd have to run out with her oil and her lamp and everything, and her wick trimmed and ready to go. So this is, some of the understanding about, some of the parables of what Yahushua is saying when he's speaking to us in this beautiful language. So not only is it going to be heralding in the kingdom, not only is it a time of repentance, but it's also a time of gladness for the groom. Okay, we got to keep that in check, because that's important to note. Okay, let's look at Revelation 19. Revelation 19. Let's start with verse 17. Okay. Verse 17 through 18. And I saw a messenger, or angel as it says, standing in the sun, and he cried with a loud voice, saying to all the fowls of the birds that fly in the midst of heaven, come and gather yourselves together unto the supper of the great Elohim, that you may eat the flesh of kings, and the flesh of captains, and the flesh of mighty men, and the flesh of horses, and of them that sit on them, and the flesh of all men, both free and bond, both small and great. Okay, this is important because remember previously in Matthew 24, Yahushua made a statement. He said, wherever the carcass is, there the buzzards would be gathered. And he didn't say where. Now let's look at Matthew 24 one more time. Sorry, I know you're jumping back and forth, but there's something else I wanted you to see. I just want you to keep that in mind, because we see in Revelation that indeed there's going to be a time where the messengers are going to tell the birds. And we already know the birds are multiplying, my friends. Science shows us that the birds are multiplying and multiplying more than they ever have, and they're preparing themselves to eat the flesh of kings and of those mighty ones, great and small, my friends, who are on the earth. Okay, so let's get back to this. In Matthew 24, let's see, we're going to start with verse 39. Now, Yahushua says within this context, you need to read 24 and 25. He says that these are going to be like the days of Noah. We need to keep in mind that Noah was not just snatched up out of the persecution, because we know that Peter tells us, Kepha tells us in his book, that Noah preached for 100 years. He was a preacher of righteousness. And nobody was converted among that time but his own family. That was his tribulation. Building the ark was his tribulation. And then he got in the ark, and Yahuwah sealed him and shut the door. He didn't leave the earth. The rains began to fall and first destroyed the unrighteous. Then the escape of Noah took place. Okay? So it's very important to understand that he was sealed, but he wasn't removed. He was sealed, but he wasn't removed. Okay? Let's go to verse 39. He says, and they knew not until the flood came and took them all away. So shall it be when the coming of the Son of Man is. And in verse 40 he says, then shall two be in the field, the one shall be taken and the other left. Two women shall be grinding at the mill, the one shall be taken, the other left. Watch therefore, for you do not know the day or the hour which your Lord has come. Okay? And this is what the false prophets use to talk about the rapture. And then what he's saying is half the world's population is going to be removed somewhere, and the other half is going to continue doing what they're doing. Okay? And we just saw a minute ago what Yahushua was saying, and we're going to turn to seal this and to show you exactly what he's talking about. And keep in mind what I read to you in Revelation, that the messengers of Yahuwah are going to tell the birds to prepare themselves for the great supper, the great Elohim that he's preparing for them. Now, let's look at this same exact reference in Luke chapter 17, because Luke gives us a little bit more of the puzzle. He ties all this together. All right, let's look at Luke chapter 17, verse 34. Sorry, 17, verse 34. He says, I tell you, in that night there shall be two men in the bed, the one shall be taken, the other left. Two women shall be grinding together, the one shall be taken and the other left. Two men shall be in the field, the one shall be taken and the other left. Okay, now people have been saying this is rapture. This is rapture. This is rapture. This is rapturo from the Latin, from the Catholic Bible. Okay, my friends. Well, this is the problem. And no matter what version you look at, the next verse says what it says. 37 says this, and they answered and said unto them, where, Master? And he said unto them, wheresoever the body is, there the buzzards will be gathered together. Wherever their carcass is. Look up that word body. Sometimes it says body in some versions. It says carcass in most versions. Go look that word up. It's carcass, my friend. It's a dead body. Go look up that word eagle, because in King James it says eagle. It's a bird that eats on, it scavenges on dead things. Yahushua is not saying that they're going to be snatched up, my friends, out of heaven. That's not what the two women grinding at the mill and all these things, that's not what it's talking about. And you're telling me that these learned scholars, these learned lying devils are telling you, and they've never seen this? It's right there in black and white. I mean, I'm not fabricating anything here. Look at it in your scriptures. And they're telling you that this is the rapture, that you should be getting ready for this rapture? My friends, they're trying to lead you straight to the pit. They're trying to lead you to the great and terrible Armageddon, where Yahuwah will have the people's, their flesh is going to be eaten by the birds. You see how this comes straight from Satan. This is such a lie that not only is it telling you to put hope in this moment, but we know clearly with everything that I've showed you that this particular moment is the time where the great messengers are going to tell the fowls of the air to eat our flesh. And these lying devils are preaching these things. Oh my. My friends, you need to get your family out of these churches. You need to get your family. These pastors are preaching all these things. They're teaching these things for a reason. These things are inspired, all right. They're inspired by a spirit, all right. But the problem is, nobody is putting the spirit to the test. And I'm putting it to the test today, my friends. Yahushua was coming in a time when no man knows the day or the hour. We know he's going to come with the shofar sound. Now we are putting our trust in the resurrection, not in some rapture of the wicked. Because that's what's going to take place. It's a snare upon their own lives and upon their own heads, my friends. Because I know Christians, and I understand the feeling, because I was taught this mess my whole life. And you got that feeling in your stomach, like, oh man, it could be any day, and I better be doing right. But they don't even know what doing right is. They don't even know what keeping the scriptures are, or walking upright are. I heard a Christian man tell me that if the rapture doesn't hurry up and happen, that he's going to rapture himself. These people are putting such an expectation in this thing that when something finally comes, they're going to be willing to accept it, no matter how lawless and disgusting it is. Watch and see when the great persecution comes.